When I do my thing, got the place on fire, burn it down to flame. Roll up in my car, don't stop, won't stop. I'ma keep it rocking.
All right, we are live. We are back for Dark Horse Podcast number 2. Brought to you again by our fine sponsors, Dark Horse Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So, give those guys a check out, a shout out, say hi on any of your social medias. Also, for future engagements, let us know all of your questions in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you want to hear us talk about anything in particular, there's your spot to shout us out. Let us know in the comments. Professor, welcome back.
Great to see you.
Yeah. Gonna give this another go.
Yeah. Our second podcast. In our first podcast, we talked about firsts. In our second podcast, we'll talk about some seconds. We can definitely talk about some firsts. There's still yet more firsts to talk about. First that we didn't cover last week was I wrote down promo Roadblocks Championship. Did we go over first promotions?
I know we talked about our first students and the first promotions we gave. I don't know if we talked about
Our own
promotions.
first promotions.
Yeah, I know. My first promotion, my blue belt was like a big deal. It was very important to me.
Yeah, the only possible exception of a bigger promotion was the black belt, because it was the black belt. The blue belt might have even been a bigger emotional impact for me, for sure.
Yeah, I remember distinctly because I was 21, so I hadn't finished high school terribly long before that, and I remember thinking like, oh yeah, high school is dumb. It's automatic, right? You just
show up.
Yeah, you just do that. That's not a big deal. My blue belt, holy crap! I worked my ass off for this. This is important. This is a big deal. I was so psyched about my blues. Yeah,
ground into the dust.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure your experiences in back in the day jiu-jitsu were not dissimilar from mine. Literally, to chasing that blue belt got just ground into the floor.
Oh yeah,
hard.
Of course.
Yeah, I think the standard at Tri-Town back in the day was you've got to tap out the blue belts to get your blue belt.
Yeah.
Like not everybody all the time, but you gotta be able to pull out a weapon and use it against every other blue belt.
I definitely took it out on every blue belt in the room because they had a blue belt. I didn't have a blue belt, so they needed to suffer.
Sure.
Which is pretty wrong-headed, but that's where I was at the time. Did you guys do the Gauntlet for promotions at Tri-Towns?
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really funny too, because like I was thinking about this earlier today, and the things that like it's almost like parenting, and things that happened when I was coming up that I wouldn't do to any other white belt now.
Yeah.
Right. Like and the Gauntlet's a great.
And I have warm memories of it. Like it was not a bad experience for me at all. So for you guys that don't know, the Gauntlet, when you got a promotion, you get your. Man, I don't know if I can remember the exact steps of it. So let's go to the general. All the students would line up in 2 rows, and you had to run or walk down the middle while they whipped you with their belt as hard as they could, repeatedly, and that was the Gauntlet. I don't remember if you got your belt first or after. Like I don't remember the exact details of that.
We did it in a few different orders. I remember we also did it kind of the opposite depending on who it was. So we would like the person getting promoted would come up to the front of the class and then like turn their back as everybody else walked by.
Uh-huh.
Snap the shit out of
so you could take your turn and get a really good whack on them. That's good.
Oh, yeah.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah. And so I would always especially if it was somebody higher belt than me, I would always like get an extra elite step in there, throw some shoulder,
Yeah.
like get some heat on it.
Yeah, still to this day, I can whip my belt,
Oh yeah,
get the snap on it
oh yeah,
with decent accuracy. I'm a little rusty, but
yeah. Yeah, I'd like to see where my aim is, if I can still get like the bottom quarter of the butt cheek where it's the most like whip.
yeah, more sensitive.
Yeah, we'd line them up and have the people come to you, and so it'd be interesting because we would do it like tricky sometimes, to where, you know, it's, hey, all right, so and so, come up to the front of the class and you're gonna close out class today, and then as they're distracted and doing something else, you know, the instructor would run up and start the gauntlet, start beating on them.
Yeah, that definitely happened with my purple belt. I was rolling with Elliot, and then at one point he just held me down, and everyone just started whipping me. Yeah, I remember that.
My purple belt started getting beat with the purple belt inside Professor Sergio's triangle. And like, oh yeah, you got to get out of this triangle, and I'm, you know, like dying, and then all of a sudden, bah, bah, bah. My favorite though was Mikey's. They had him close out class, and then, you know, like, he was kind of still expecting it, and he bows out, and then he turns and starts to shake everybody's hand, and he's just got this like distraught look on his face.
It didn't happen.
Right, like, oh, not today. And so he's got his back to the little office where we kept all the belts, and Erwin ran out of the back, and just this overhand swing, crossways, just like grandpa with the belt, like back and forth, and literally beat him to the ground with his new belt.
This was purple or blue belt?
That was, I'm pretty sure that was blue belt. I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, that was his blue belt. His purple belt was the same day I got my black belt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Gauntlet.
Yeah.
So I got my blue belt, and I probably trained 2 or 3 months, you know, worth of regular training in Oklahoma, spread out over like 6 months or so. And then 2 years in Boulder at Boulder Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, back before it was called Easton. So I was really obsessed with getting my blue belt. And, you know, like, it wasn't as clear as I try to make it to my students, where, you know, like, if you want your belt, come talk to me, like, I'll make it clear exactly what you need to do, you know, what timeline we're looking at, like, all that stuff. So it was like this weird psychic game in my head where I was trying to figure out what Amal wanted from me for me to get my blue belt. And besides the paranoia, some good stuff did come from it. Like, I wrestled, and I was big and strong, so I was just training on top. And so I stopped training on top and started training from the bottom. Started developing a bottom game. So, and I started focusing on maybe, let's say, being a better training partner.
Super big step for any blue belt.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me too.
That's an important one. And when people like aren't necessarily the best training partners now, like, I still like, yeah, I get it. However, you gotta take care of your training partner. You gotta slow down.
Right.
But yeah, I was like all in my head about getting my blue belt, and I took it out on all the blue belts in the room. And when Nick Klein got his purple belt, that was it. I felt like, in my head, I was the best blue belt in the room, even though it was a weight belt. Yeah.
Yeah, that ego thing can be super duper tough in the beginning. I remember, like, I kind of knew the promotion was coming, and so it was like testing day kind of thing. It's the informal. All right, these are the guys they're right up next to their blue belt. And we're gonna have a really hard training session. We're gonna grind, and then promotions and that whole thing. I remember myself and another guy who was early 40s, had 2 kids, and was like just your average suburban dude. Was training jiu-jitsu.
Coming in to lose a little weight.
Yeah. And his kids did jiu-jitsu, and so he had the whole family in there, and it was a big family fun thing.
Nice.
Right? And that's awesome. It was just doing his thing and training. And I was 21, and I want blood and bones and glory.
Yeah.
And so, like testing day, we're going to train hard and grind. And so had the 2 of us who were up for promotion roll against each other. Right?
That'll get the most out of everyone.
So as we're kind of training, and I was like, I can feel in the back of my head this pressure, like I want my blue belt. I got to make this look good. I got to make this happen today. This has got to be the thing. And as we're going, the guy kind of like, we're close enough. He whispers in my ear, "Don't embarrass me in front of my kids." I'm like, oh, big ego thing. Right. Not about me.
There is another person here. Huh.
Oh, okay, yes. Gotcha. We're both important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good light bulb moment.
Yeah. Super duper important. That was a good thing. Yeah. Actually, that's a perfect little segue. Yeah. Goes right into roadblocks. I have down in my notes one of my biggest roadblocks, and that through that white belt, blue belt period, was separating a technique from a person. Right.
What does that mean?
In the early days, it was, Hector's guard passing is so killer that I can't stop it. Right, I gotta stop Hector's guard passing.
Yeah, you're gonna develop a whole game around beating one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, cool. Now I've got the technique to stop Hector.
Yeah.
But Alberto's passing my guard still.
Yeah.
And like, well, I can sweep Danny every single day. Bob has just got too good a base. Done. And that's an ego thing too, right?
Yeah.
That's me, big special me versus them. When that's not the case at all.
I've got to show the world that I'm better than that person. And that, like figuring out a technique to stop that guard pass is good. That's a good thing.
100%.
Like all that mental energy around trying to beat that person is a huge waste. And steering that into developing a more rounded Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game, much more effective than developing this very specialized game that you use against one person to try to win every time against them. Yeah. I trained with Nick Klein a lot, and I definitely had like a whole game from a bunch of different positions that I would do specifically against him to try to beat him.
Yeah. Well, and to this day, there are people that know my game really well.
You?
Yeah. They're like people that know my game and have game to beat it.
Like, don't get triangled?
Yeah. Among other things. But there are people, so I'll have just tremendous trouble training with that person, even though that person training with anybody else can't stop the techniques that I usually use.
Yeah.
And it goes, I've definitely done it the other way. Far less now, right? Like that's kind of the the point of that. That was the big roadblock, is saying, oh, well, I want to beat Hector. I want to beat this guard pass. And when I made that separation, doors blew off, right? Like, oh, now I can stop Hector's pass and Alberto's pass, and and Jane and Jimmy and Tommy too, right? Everybody.
You knew they were placed, but you only used it against that one person that you figured out against because you really wanted to beat them, but then you weren't using it in other cases.
Or I was overlooking important tools because, well, no, I've got to stop this person's pattern to put their head in this particular place to whatever, and instead of going back to the real good habits to work with everybody. And well, I mean, that kind of goes back to the chess thing, right? Like, Jiu-Jitsu is human chess. So, well, all right, the Sicilian defense always gets this pawn, right? And if that's not actually helpful, then stop pushing that ball. But that's what firsts are for. Figuring out that early stuff, going somewhere better with it.
You have to grow as a person, or at least jiu-jitsu in and of itself really, really encourages you to grow as a person. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but it sure helps.
Yeah.
Letting go of a bit of the ego, a bit of the self-centeredness, learning to take losses, and not have it be so personal. Learning to work on yourself.
That's it. I definitely think learning to work on yourself. But one of the bigger things that I take, or continue to take from jiu-jitsu is learning to work on myself a little at a time. I think it's easy for people to get caught up in that instant results mentality, where okay, I did a thing, and now I should be different.
I got my blue belt. Now I should be good at jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And meanwhile, I'm up here thinking, oh well, I've got my black belt. I should really try to be good at jiu-jitsu. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep going. Like, it's not a done thing. Now it's a process. Now it's a lot of little things.
When I got my brown belt, I wore it to bed with me.
Yes.
And in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to fight black belts in public soon. Oh, fuck. I'm going to get serious about jiu-jitsu. No more screwing around. All the things I've done that have gotten me here are not good enough to get me where I need to go to fight black belts in public.
Right. Yeah, that is a leap. That was pretty scary for me as well.
Yeah, brown belts are monsters, and they're brown belts that tap out black belts all day long, but still those black belts are the ones you see in the videos, winning the worlds, winning Abu Dhabi, winning whatever. So there's definitely a completely different world of mystique around it.
Yeah. And mystique has direct psychic power. I mean, it's huge.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I actually kind of flashing back to a discussion I had as maybe Blue by Hell. This might have been a discussion with you actually. Maybe, yeah. Rolling one time, and I was not doing well, just underperforming, and that's really what it was. Is I was not doing the things that I knew how to do. I was just not
taking yourself out of your game for some reason.
Yeah, and the person I was rolling with was like, "Dude, you're looking at my belt, right? Don't look down at my belt.
Yeah.
Right? Look at what you're doing. Just play your game. Just do your thing."
Yeah.
And I kind of realized that oh yeah, I'm looking at their belt and beating myself in my head before the game ever kicks off.
That's a huge one.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, I still use that. I still use that trick.
Yeah.
Right. Like I recognize when people are looking at my belt.
Yeah.
And okay.
That's a good one. I'll definitely
Right.
remember
Like if you think I'm good, I guess I'm just going to be good then.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Championships. We did talk about our first competition.
The big CKA trophies. Huge.
Was CKA your first big win? Your first?
Yeah. I got a couple really big trophies from CKAs. I got second place at Pans. That was the second time I did it. The first time I did it, my first fight, the guy weighed 413 pounds. And
Slim.
I felt like the bug that met up with the windshield on the highway. I got squished.
Yeah.
But the second time, at Pans, I got second place.
Nice.
And I lost in the championship in part because I was psyched out because his coach, who was standing right there, was Rickson Gracie, who was, and still is, one of my all-time heroes in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Sure.
He was like coaching the guy against me. I was like, what am I supposed to do with that? Man. And it totally threw me off. And I didn't fight well and I lost.
Yeah. We talked about my first tournament, but that was definitely not my first championship. After that first tournament, I got all fuzzy headed. And, after that, Pancrase.
Pancrase.
That's
right. I remember the Pancrase.
Was it Field High School?
Arvada.
High School?
I remember driving in Arvada to get to it.
Oh, yes. Arvada High. Arvada West. Some high school gymnasium.
In the gymnasium.
Yeah.
Takes me back to the days of wrestling. Spending all weekend in the gymnasium somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun. Pancrase was a trip because it was a wild environment. It's
they allow different submissions or something?
Yeah. And so you get like Grappler's Quest and the Old Timers Wrestling Tournament at the same time. And so all kinds of, it was like a whatever.
All of the things.
Open
a hodgepodge of grappling.
Yeah, open grappling division.
Come get your grappling.
Mm-hmm. I think that was my first championship. When those guys go.
Was it just no-gi?
Yeah, that was all no-gi. That was a trip. It was a lot of like cauliflower ear and guys with the gorilla walk. You know, like all the traps.
Yeah, the Grappler's Edge guys always brought like a strong team.
Yeah. Well, they brought a large team. I don't know about strong.
Physically strong.
Physically, absolutely.
Technically strong? Not so much. Really good at can openers. And
which I appreciated.
Headlocks. Hey, every time I want to open a can, I really appreciate a can opener. I
appreciate jiu-jitsu opponents that do can opener to me because they are indicating their desire to be armbarred.
It's true.
And I oblige them.
As you should. Just being the gentleman you are.
I try. So let's see, CKA, and is that your biggest, proudest championship?
Masters Worlds. I lost to Shanji. I got third place. But if I was on the other side of the bracket, I'm convinced I would have gotten second place because I wasn't going to beat Shanji. But I got to fight Shanji. I got third place at Masters Worlds at black belt. It was a good weekend. It was like Shanji was in perfect position the whole time. It was a weird feeling.
Yeah, I bet you did that on purpose.
Yeah, like he wanted to win or something.
Yeah, I can't blame him.
That's good.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see. Just working through our list. All right. The big W. Why?
Why did I start training? Why train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Both of those, all the whys.
The why I started training is kind of a long story. However, this is long form, so we can get into it. But I played football and I wrestled in high school. I loved both of them. But I had a bad regionals my senior year in wrestling, and I got headlocked and I panicked because I got choked. I couldn't breathe, and the guy pinned me. I was seated second. Like I should have won, gone on to state. And afterwards, my wrestling coach was very dismissive. He's like, "Well, have fun playing football in college." And I was crushed. I was like, "Oh, I'm not good enough at wrestling." So I tried to play football in college, and in this same time period, my mom had come down with cancer, and right before the start of my freshman year of college, she died. So there's a ton of inner turmoil. So I dropped out of school, quit football, dropped out of school, moved back home, and by home I mean like a friend and family's house that I lived at. And I was like working in a coffee shop part-time, hanging out with my friends, being lost, trying to figure out who I was, what I wanted to do in this world. And on my way to work, I kept seeing this sign that said Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'd seen the first UFCs, and I knew Royce Gracie was from Brazil, but I knew he trained Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So I was wondering, could possibly, maybe, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu be similar to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? But I didn't know. That wasn't a known thing to me. So I drove by it for a while until I finally went in there. And he had pictures of the Gracies up. And I was like, oh, wait, yeah, cool.
We're good.
This is the thing, yes. And I put it off for a long time because I was crazy, whatever. But I thought, for some reason, day one, I was going to have to fight in a cage. I literally thought I was going to have to fight MMA in a cage on day one to sign up as part of the sign-up process. I don't know. But I put it off for a while. And that did not happen.
And then we continue the tradition of that not happening to this very day.
Yeah.
Is that
I wrestle. I love wrestling. Yeah. So that's kind of my wife.
I thought for a second there, I thought you meant, is that why we don't beat up students on their first day? Well, yeah, we don't beat them up because
we can show them how tough we are.
we totally could. I don't know if that's super productive, but good.
You'd feel good.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
No? Huh. Do you like punching small children in the face?
I do, but not for jiu-jitsu related reasons.
Kicking dogs?
No, violence against animals is definitely wrong.
But kids, okay.
Well, kids are people.
Okay. That definitely hasn't gone off the rails. So why did you start training jiu-jitsu?
For opportunities to beat children.
Right? Punch them right in the face. Bam. Showman's boss. They need to know.
Right. And there's not there's not better ways to show children authority than physical violence.
12 to 6 elbows.
All day.
Their head is at the perfect height.
So true. Yeah, why did I start training?
Professor Charles, why did you start training jiu-jitsu?
All the wrong reasons. Right, like all of the
Greed, narcissism, rage,
lust for power.
lust for power.
No, mostly just ego. I was like 21 and working out and running, and I was just like in super great shape, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm young and strong and invincible. I can do anything.
Right.
And I found out that was not the case. I got destroyed.
You weren't invincible.
No, I was not invincible at all. And the kid that beat me up was like short, out of shape, and like in my ego, I'm like, what? Big special me? This can't possibly happen.
What if I try harder next time?
And it did not help.
What if you try really, really hard the next time?
Now, that was my thought. It was that third attempt I was going to go really, really hard.
Yeah. It's unstoppable.
Did not work out. Got beat up. Had some more drinks. Attempted again. Nothing. So, okay. What is this? Why am I failing? What is happening right now? And then...
Was this in the academy or was this...
In the front yard. Yeah.
In your front yard?
In my front yard.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, sting.
Yeah, we had a little house party, and my brother's friend was hanging out, and he had rolled 3 times or something. He had
more experience than you.
Yeah. He had one technique, and it worked.
What was the technique?
The triangle. Yeah. So,
irony of all ironies.
Yes, the deep irony. I got triangled out in my front yard enough times that I dedicated the next 15 years to triangles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think about the why, and some of it's very clear. Just like, that's so cool. It's complex, challenging. It's, achieving within this system has given me all kinds of things. And so, yeah, there's a lot of concrete whys, and there's a lot of them I have no idea. Just the light of heaven shined down on that moment, and it was right, and it was supposed to be, and I don't know why it is, but
you guys were just rolling, it wasn't a fight.
No, so like I said,
somewhere in between.
It was a little house party,
yeah,
and so we're talking about what we're doing that week and goofing off, and what we're interested in, and my brother's buddy says, "Hey, I learned this thing. You wanna wrestle around a little bit?" Sure. All right.
Don't care about your thing.
Right. What?
I'm tough.
Right. What are the rules to this? Yeah. I'm bigger and stronger than you. I'll wrestle. The same shit.
It's called a triangle. What? Who cares? Doesn't sound badass.
I'm on top. I am clearly not winning. Shit.
Okay, let's try this again.
Yeah. Right. So, why do I keep doing jujitsu? And all the good things, right? It's just so fucking cool.
Best addiction ever.
Yes, and absolutely addiction.
I get clinically depressed if I don't train. You can go down the list. Like interpersonal relationships are falling apart, feel stressed out, feel overwhelmed, can't sleep, like da, 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 da. Oh, you're depressed. And I train, I'm like, I'm all right.
Oh yeah.
I'm all right.
Yeah.
The whole story of like driving to Jiu Jitsu, someone cuts you off and you're like, honk, fuck you, rah. And then drive on the way back, someone cuts you off and yells at you, and you're like, that guy, yeah, that guy, he's having a bad day.
He should go do some jiu-jitsu or something.
He should go do jiu-jitsu. Someone should choke him out. For sure.
Right. Yeah, have you ever offered that as therapy for people that need it?
Jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Are we talking about fights we've been in? Or...
Well, I mean, if you brought it up, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm loath to encourage fighting and violence out in the world because we don't need violence out in the world.
We can start off with,
but sometimes,
the vast majority of the time, walking away or making peace is both preferable and superior.
Mm.
However, real evil does exist, or like on a personal level, assholes do exist, and
sometimes they want to be alone.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you get into a fight. It happens. I've only ever started one fight in my life, and that was while I lived in Brazil. I've been in a bunch of fights, but they started it, and so that kind of like clears my conscience.
Yeah. Bunch of self-defense situations.
Yeah. They started it. I ended it.
Little
Well,
self-defense.
yin and yang there.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Silly.
One fight?
Sure, let's hit it.
One fight.
I'm sure there's a. Well, I know there's a
Well,
lot
we
of
did talk
stories.
about my first self-defense situation. He pulled my long hair, and it was like a month after starting training jiu-jitsu. I so rarely think about the fights I've been in at this point. So the one in Brazil, the one fight I did start, kind of embarrassing. At a bar in Rio in the summer, it was hot. I was standing outside on the street outside this bar, and I can't remember the name of it. But we went to it all the time. It was in, I want to say it was in Leblon. But this guy takes his shirt off, walks into the bar. I'm like, that's a fucking great idea. It's hot. I'm going to take my shirt off, walk into the bar. I do that, and the bouncer immediately throws me out, like physically throws me out. And so I took him down to the ground. And I got on top, and I reached back to punch him, and the crowd had all kind of swarmed around us already, and it was like something from a cartoon or whatever. Like someone grabbed my arm, someone grabbed my body, and I just like slowly got pulled back, and I'm like, oh, this could be really, really bad. These are his friends. But it wasn't. They were just like bystanders that didn't want to see people fight. So quasi-fight. I did take it down. It was physical contact.
Yeah.
And I heard from people afterwards that he also was a brown belt. So it could have been a good fight. Brown belt on brown belt action in Brazil for it.
He never popped up to the academy you were training at and wanted to sort it out.
No. Semi-music story. But that's the one that popped into my head. What about you?
So, actually, I got a Air Force exercise. So I had to physically get in there and make it happen, but it wasn't going to get actual violence. So, for a lot of our exercises, I got tasked to be the bad guy. Because
Sounds like fun.
because I had a couple of advantages that made me a better bad guy.
Like being pure evil.
That was a huge advantage.
Having a black heart.
Yeah.
Long reach.
I was fast,
Being a sneaky bastard.
Yeah, fast and sneaky was one of the big ones. They did like that I had, like hand-to-hand capabilities.
Oh man, you are fast. That's right. I remember trying to do hill sprints with you. I'm getting so pissed because I couldn't beat you. But the next time I tried really, really hard, and no, you're pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah. And then almost any opportunity they had to take my gun away, they did, because they knew I couldn't use it.
For the scenarios?
No, just in general, I'm terrible with fire. Like, awful.
Not a black belt at shooting.
No. It was actually a problem, like consistently in the military. But anyway, so I was the bad guy, and so I am running around in our restricted area, like messing stuff up, planting little, like fake bombs. We take like a water bottle or whatever, write bomb on it, put it places. But so we're doing our exercise, and I'm, messing stuff up and
making evil laughs.
Yeah. I jump over a fence at one point. I'm running around in this big grassy area, and they kind of, they call, well, it's getting close to time. We want to start wrapping up the exercise. So,
quit being such a good bad guy.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up here.
Right. It's like, let him catch you. We want to practice the cuffing part. So I let him catch me. I stop running, but the guy that was supposed to cuff me screws up, and he cuffed me in front. So, with my hands in front, I grabbed him by the collars, pushed him up against his partner that was supposed to be his Overwatch, his safety check. I pushed him up against his partner, and then reached around both of them, hooked my foot around the back guy's foot, and tripped them both. Put them both on the ground, used the one to pin the other down, and then the guy on top got choked with the handcuff chains. And then
that's a bummer.
Yeah,
for them, not for you.
Right? They call it safety, 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 and that was the end of the exercise. They're like, all right, quick, give him back his gun so he's not dangerous.
Bet he never made that mistake again.
No, from that point on, they were very, very careful to handcuff me behind the back and always put me belly down before they started the handcuffing process.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did a bunch of goofy. Yeah, I beat up a bunch of air. That was a blast.
You're just doing your part. Keep America safe.
Yeah.
And I salute you for that.
Well, thank you. All right. Let's see. We got our firsts. We got our whys. We got.
It's not a bad time.
45
minutes again.
Yeah. So I think any interesting last thoughts? Anything else we want to chop up before we go to class and get some drills in?
Go to class and get some drills in.
Cool. All right. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us for another edition of the Dark Horse Podcast. Please make sure you are engaging with us. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions or comments. If you liked the podcast, let us know if there's anything we can do better. And then come see us, 950 Santa Fe. Yeah, Dark Horse Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Love to see you guys.
Thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching. Yeah, see you next time. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to the whole podcast. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or ideas, things, subjects that you'd like to hear future podcasts on. Let us know, and make sure to reach out to our sponsor, Dark Horse Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and let them know you love their product.
Comment, like, share, subscribe.
What?
Like, share, and subscribe.
like, share, and subscribe for all future